So your screen recording is going?
Yes.
Okay.
Hi. No.
So, first of all, thank you everyone for coming. This is an event that's part of the SDN Netherlands chapter. We've held these events for a long, long time. The chapter has existed in some form or name since 2008. We went through a bit of a quiet spell since the pandemic, but we're now kind of restarting and have more ambition for more face-to-face events and to continue doing some online events. This event is on service design and AI. I'll walk you briefly through what's on the program. I'm Jesse. I'm a service designer based here in Amsterdam. I'm also part of the team that leads the SDN Netherlands chapter. Eduardo and Inigo are here. They're also leading the chapter, and Gonçalo, Marike, and there are some volunteers that are supporting us. Franklin, I'll give the word to you in a moment. He's thanking for hosting us here at the Deloitte. So, following Franklin's introduction, we're going to hear from Palazzo. He's the DBA, and he can tell you a bit of the work that they're doing. And then we've got our three talks to you this evening on Kanishka, Selena, and Luke.
And now we also got sit here now in the front.
Yeah.
Don't be shy.
Yeah, but
Yes, have a seat. We can put an extra chair there.
and I really want to make this discussion interactive. So the last part of the talk, Luke's talk, is going to also be some questions. These can be asking them both to the previous speakers, but also to yourselves. I'd like to have some discussion here, so that can be our last part of the event. And then, of course, we have drinks. I think we're going to go up to the sunshine.
Yeah, the weather is good.
There's a great space up on the roof for later. So your reward for coming and not skipping this, because it's nice weather, is we get to go outside. So a little context for the talk. Service design and AI, of course, is a big thing. Primarily, one of the reasons for this talk was the need. SDN Journal, Touchpoint has covered this recently. This is on something that comes out 3 times a year, and the most recent issue is on AI. We've got some of them here they're going to be tuned already. And actually, Kanishka will speak as if they published it. So this is a little of the context for the event. SDN has been thinking a lot about service design and AI and AIA. I've held an online event connected to this issue a couple of weeks ago. I'm teaching a workshop at the SDN Global Conference in Helsinki on AI and service design. We'll pursue the other concept in the conference program about the topic on social markets, on us talking about it, and other chapters of the SDN are also talking about AI. We cannot communicate it and get it around our manuscript. So that's all I have to say as an introduction to myself. I can hand it over to Franklin, who is kind enough to be hosting us here on behalf of Deloitte.
Yeah, thank you. Yes. Well, welcome here at the Deloitte. My name is Franklin Heijn. I'm creative director at Deloitte. And here, this is the space. You might know Deloitte from the other building that we did about of the highway. That's our main office here in Amsterdam. Limit base is created to be co-creation with our colleagues and our clients. In this office, we have 30 design working here for client projects and new service design, UX design, embedded design. Those are the services we offer to our clients to do it in-house and to do together with our clients. So in the next stage, we did create a care robot here, for example. But we're also doing a lot of work with the public sector, for example, in this environment. So welcome here, and I'm also excited at the end. You do have a break with us at the inflow of the building, and well, I give the word to one of our lead service designers, Thomas Assani, and he's going to talk about what we do. We do work for moving the service design work using AI and GenAI, and we also do projects in which we create tools and AI tools for our clients. If you look at this side, the other poster of the project where we create GenAI tools for ourselves and for our clients. But first, Thomas is going to tell something about how we use it in a real client project. So,
cool, thank you very much.
So it's a bit awkward, but I have to stand here because I've been instructed to stand in front of the camera. We thought it might be a good idea to kind of show you how we are already trying to adopt generative AI in our day-to-day work at our clients. So I wanted to just show you a little bit what I did for one of my clients, who is a elderly care organization called Omring in the north of the Netherlands. They provide different services. They provide home care. They have elderly homes. They have stores where people can buy medical aids for use. But they asked us specifically to rethink what the elderly care home of the future might look like. Elderly homes that right now look like this. I believe this is one in Texel, one of the islands. So I'm not sure how familiar you are with elderly care, but like in healthcare in general, there are some worrying trends. People are getting older. We are getting all more chronically ill, so we require more complex care. There is a huge shortage in the labor market for people who want to work in healthcare, and specifically people who are more specialistically trained. There's a huge shortage for those, and the costs of care are rising. So all these things are a bit worrisome for them. So they asked us to have a look at what those elderly homes might look like, not only as a physical space, but also how the team that is working there might look like, and what technology they might use. So after some research, we defined a couple of goals that we wanted to reach with this proposition. And I won't bore you with the detail. The most important thing is that because of this labor shortage, they need to start filling that gap by, on one hand, investing in technology, seeing if they can use technology that kind of reduce the hours spent, the time spent on administrative tasks, things that don't help real people in day-to-day living, but also looking at how informal care might play a bigger role in the day-to-day inside these elderly homes. So you can imagine that this shifts responsibilities within the care team, and they need to fundamentally start working in a different way, involving families in the day-to-day, working maybe remotely in some cases. And generally, it was like everybody kind of agrees with these things on paper, but everybody was having a really hard time to understand, okay, what does this mean in practice? And is it actually desirable to work in this way? So that's where we tried to use generative AI to make this come to life, because in my experience, change starts with a shared vision of what a desirable future might look like. And a vision is more than words on paper. I think visual aids communicates better. So we designed the whole proposition, and then, as we service designers do, we created a service blueprint to kind of describe in a very, very complex way what the future is going to look like. And obviously, this doesn't communicate very well. So we needed to apply some storytelling to be able to share this view with healthcare employees, with elderly people living in those homes, with informal carers, with volunteers, etc., to help them understand what these decisions that were made on paper by us would look like in the day-to-day. And that's where we asked Head Start for help. Head Start is our very own ChatGPT that we use at Deloitte. So what I started to do is to provide Head Start with some context, some things that we discussed. It's all in Dutch, apologies. But basically, at the top, I'm just describing the context of shortage in labor, what kind of technology we should use. That there is a fundamental shift in the way we collaborate, also with informal care. And I'm asking it to just describe as a story what a day might look like in that elderly home. And like pick out a few moments in the day that might be interesting to talk about. So it started doing that. Then we realized, okay, this is really much written from the perspective of someone living in that home. Apparently, that's what it picked up. So we shifted. We also wanted to tell something about what it means for healthcare professionals. So we asked it to shift the perspective to what a healthcare professional might experience. So it retook all the different parts of the day that it described before and moved the perspective towards also to things that happened in the back that were not visible, a little bit the backstage actions, you could say, and which was really interesting because it was all head start. And then in co-creation with our clients, we added more details. We started tweaking the story. And in the end, we created the poster that you see there on the left, which at the top kind of shows the day seen from the perspective of a person living there, and at the bottom from the perspective of a nurse. We started to put this up on all the walls at Omring. We went to different elderly homes, started discussing it with the teams, and doing it in this way allowed us to very quickly iterate on it, because we would print out the poster, put it on the wall, have a workshop with a different group of stakeholders almost every day, and then every time do iterations with the feedback to ready it for the next workshop. So it really, I was reflecting a bit on the role that we had in this, and it was almost like facilitating the discussion between the AI and our stakeholder groups. So what we did is, we did the storyboard with AI and Midjourney, by the way, to make the pictures, and then we curated the output and facilitated that reflection on what the world might look like in the future, and then turned the feedback from different stakeholder groups into new prompts to further detail out or change the story. Just to conclude, I think one thought that I had was, okay, it takes less time, so it accelerates our work. It allows us to do more frequent iteration, but the consequence of doing more frequent, more quick iterations is that you can power up your co-creation. You can, in a relatively short period of time, you can talk to a very large group of stakeholders. And what this does is that it creates more ownership within the organization. People starting taking out the poster and bringing it to their colleagues, sharing their vision, not only internally, but also externally with the insurance companies. So it really, because everybody had a say in this, and I had the feeling that they had a say in this, it really created more alignment and more ownership across the organization. And let me stop there and give the floor back to you. And
I'm gonna.
I don't know. Do you have a question?
We have time at the end, so we built in questions and discussion for everyone. I'm gonna skip over your slide where you're looking for a designer.
Oh yeah, almost forgot.
You're leaving me to say that you're looking for a designer.
We are looking for a junior suit designer. So if you are or know anyone, please refer them to me or to Frank or to anyone.
And so today we've got this vacancy in front of me. You can get.
Okay. Okay, so I'd like to invite then our next speaker, Tanishka. Tanishka is working at Akada here in Amsterdam, driving end-to-end value proposition design at the Global Innovation Scheme and aiming to achieve climate policy impact in areas such as renewable energy and clean energy.
So I'm also going to be standing here, as Tommaso said, because that's so that the camera can see me. Really happy to be here today. He introduced me, but I'll go deeper into who I am, where I work, and what I do. But before that, let me tell you what I'm going to be speaking about. So today I'm going to talk about the magical synergy that can be harnessed when we blend AI and human creativity in how we do design innovation, but specifically within new and emerging industries. Now, in our field, as in many fields, we have very esoteric jargons. So some of these might mean different things to all of you. AI alchemy is also a term coined by yours truly. So let's break it down. And I want to ask you what comes to your mind when you hear and see this term on your screen and when I just pronounced it. Would anyone like to jump in with the first thing that pops into your mind? A word, an image, a color?
A wizard.
A wizard. Yeah. A wizard. My colleague there this morning, she said aioli. So your head could go in many different places. But let me bring it to context. Some of the things with this image, which obviously has not been generated by AI. Kidding, of course it has. But it might be something like this that comes to mind, wizardry, magic. It might also be something like this. And I'd actually like all of us to imagine ourselves as that woman on the screen holding the magic wand, and as AI, as one of the elements in this potion bottle. So AI alchemy is a metaphor that I like. It comes, I don't know why that changed. It's a term that comes from alchemy, which many of you might know as an ancient practice that combines chemistry, philosophy, and mysticism. And alchemists aim to transform base metals into gold. But alchemy isn't just about material transformation. It's also about personal transformation and spiritual enlightenment. And the reason why I like it is because I think our journey with AI should not just be one of changing the way we work, but it's also going to change ourselves in how we work and how we approach life in general. And that's the spirit I would encourage all of us to approach this topic from, not from a prescriptive intellectual perspective, but more from an intuitive, magical, and wondrous perspective. So what I mean when I say AI alchemy is about finding the right mix of human and AI elements to create gold and achieve transformation. The question is less how do we best use AI, but it's more how do we best balance human and AI elements to create this gold. So the other term I'd like us all to align on is design innovation. When I use this term, this is also the work that I do, it's the practice of applying human-centered design end-to-end across the innovation process. So all the way from research to ideation, prototyping, testing, and delivery. And last but not the least, what do I mean by emerging industries? So these are industries that are going through rapid growth, driven mostly by new technologies, new market demands, and they have high potential for disruption, and rapid investment is going into them, which means people are looking at it, but what do you do with it is really the question. An example of an emerging industry could be renewable energy. Floating wind turbines are something that are now gaining traction in Japan specifically. Another one could be electric flying vehicles, which were going to be experimented in Paris right now during the Olympics. And there's probably many more that come to mind. We're moving fast as a human species. I don't know. My slides are also moving fast. So. Is it? But I don't touch it, so I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, we'll just scroll back. It's okay. We can take a step back. Now that I've told you this, let me come back to where I work and what I do by introducing Arcadis, as was probably given away by the template. So I work at Arcadis. We are the world's leading company delivering sustainable design engineering consultancy, specifically within the architecture, engineering, and construction industry. And we work with clients on topics like energy transition, new mobility, things like that. Our clients are in property and investment, water, government. So we work with different clients globally in many different sectors. And our strategy is very much around driving a planet-positive future, as was said in my introduction as well. It's good to note that the buildings around us, the built environment, which is where Arcadis provides this consultancy, emit 40% of global carbon emissions, which is massive, right? To give you an example of the kind of work 36,000 of my amazing colleagues do across the world, this is an image from a lagoon complex restoration project that was done in Brazil. So the water faced immense degradation and due to occupation. So you can see all the buildings around. And so it was important to increase the biodiversity again. And that's some of the amazing work that my colleagues do. And while we're working on all of this, 40% of global carbon emissions, keeping that in mind, it's important to remember that what got us here today won't get us there, to where we want to go, to a happy planet. And that's why at Arcadis we have a innovation team, because there's a huge impact, a huge opportunity for impact here by design and innovation. So our team, the Innovation Studio, we develop B2B value propositions, disruptive forward-looking value propositions, focusing on those emerging industries that I just showed you. And we work specifically within, again, topics like energy transition, new mobility, green industrial facilities, to name a few. The way we work is we take complex problems, we apply a holistic, multidisciplinary lens to it. I focus specifically on design. So bringing human-centered design to these emerging technologies to make sure that they don't just exist for the sake of existing, but for a purpose. And we kill, pivot, progress. With a lot of killing, we might go from 0 to 1, or we might go from 0 to 0, and that's okay. As you can imagine, this isn't easy. And in doing this, we face many challenges, such as time constraints, limited access to stakeholders and clients for research, for co-creation, and leveraging tools available to us like AI can, of course, support this, right? Like you were mentioning, Tommaso, earlier. And coming back to these cute little vehicles, in a recent innovation and value proposition design project that we did on electric urban air mobility, which, just to explain, involves the transportation of people and cargo in and around urban centers through these small electric flying vehicles. We faced struggles. We were in December. We were struggling to find people to research with and to test with, and we had time constraints. We had a deadline. So we decided to use tools, generative AI tools, like ChatGPT, Perplexity AI, Copilot, to help us in this process. So AI proved helpful in what? It proved helpful in divergent thinking, understanding broad topic context, and in inspiration. But, of course, there's a but. It required significant human effort to refine and complement the outputs. Now, if we look at this case further, we can get some valuable lessons on the effectiveness and limitations of human and AI elements combination in the design innovation process, specifically in nascent domains. So the way we did this, we applied it across 3 areas of the design process: context research, user research, and ideation. So I will go into that. And I added the human plus here before AI alchemy because I think it's important to highlight that part. So how do we best do that? And we can start looking at context research. So in general, GenAI responses were typically quite generic and simplistic, but they helped because we were able to enhance them with more focused prompts and with manual refinements. So if you use AI to do stakeholder identification, it gives you great lists of people with their information. You can ask it to give you more. But what's missing is the connections between them, the nuances that can be established by a human eye. To also think of new connections. We're working in complex fields here, and we need that new nuance discovered. Tools like Perplexity AI showed a lot of promise in analyzing many different data sources and giving outputs. But in these emerging areas, there's very sparse data. So there was not very critical source evaluation. So what I would recommend if you're using AI for this is to do more manual literature reviews and use AI for summaries, because there can be a lot of hallucinatory bias in what it gives out. And last but not the least, we did a PESTLE analysis. You can do many things, of course, to understand the context of the topic. PESTLE is political, environmental, social, technological, legal, and economic understanding of a topic, which we need to know that before working with any of these fast-moving topics. Now, important to remember here that given the rapidly evolving nature of these industries, there is, even experts, real people, don't have all the up-to-date information on these topics. So obviously, Gen AI and its data sets don't. It's important to consider the sources and dates of the training data, as well as the fact that it will only use the data from voices and people who are using the internet and who are willing and able to publish their insights. So that's something to consider, an important consideration. However, what leads to detailed and useful responses is using focused prompts. So instead of telling ChatGPT, hey, can you tell me about the technological factors as well as the broader FESL factors on the topic of electric urban air mobility, which actually led to a very broad response saying you need to develop sustainable energy infrastructure, which is like obvious. Surprise, surprise. No, but what worked was telling it to just tell us about the technology. So going deep into that, and then we got something interesting. Then there's advancements in AI algorithms which can help you optimize the energy efficiency of routes used by these air vehicles. Just look at the contrast between those two responses. It's quite something. So what you put in influences what comes out. Next, going into user research. So Gen AI, and this probably a lot of you are questioning about it, right? Because I've noticed that people are not very happy to do user research with Gen AI. Neither was I, but you can still use it. It's a good ally, but it tends to give repetitive output sometimes. It tends to rephrase things again and again, and it lacks really that magical depth of genuine human insight. One way you could use it is to ask it to emulate key stakeholders and answer certain interview questions. With this, if you're starting to work on the topic, AI helps quite a bit with developing that initial empathy towards who are the people, who are the groups, and what are their experiences. But what it lacked was critical, well-rounded perspectives on more specific user research. So if you want to go deep into a person or a group, whether you're leading with an over-enthusiastic or skeptical stakeholder, both different attitudes, it tended to give the same outputs. It tended to be overly optimistic, which is not what we need. But what helped was defining very detailed persona archetypes for AI emulation. So specifying expertise, traits, mindsets, and not going into it with one lens focused on one person, but instead prompting it to simulate panel discussions and debates between different people, different types of stakeholders, because that is the only thing that gave us contrasting answers and some disagreement instead of the same thing said in different words. You could also ask it to emulate a design researcher, generate interview scripts, and synthesize outcomes. However, here you'll get speed, but you won't get much surprising or new information. Last but not the least, ideation. So generative AI is generative, so it's great at diverging and giving us many things, many ideas. And critical human review ensured convergence of those ideas, so we can really use what fits and refine it. So one thing we noticed is that these, like I said before, many of these fields like electric urban air mobility depend on advancements in technologies. So it's very easy when you feed a problem statement into AI for it to focus on existing technologies as ideas and solutions. So it tends to give us ideas like battery swapping and energy sharing around a problem statement, which was broadly related to the energy issue around electric urban air mobility. And of course, it's important, technology is important, but it's merely a means to an end, but it's not the end in itself. We need to tackle it, we need to look deeper into these things. And what helped us get these user-centric, creative, and fitting ideas was to combine AI's divergent thinking with our human eye for critical convergence and usability, but also using prompts, again, that pushed for user centricity and creativity. So if you look at the prompt up there, you can see that it checks many boxes. It mentions the opportunity statement. Clearly, it mentions the issues around it. We also have an analogy in there. So we use our human creative mind to nudge creativity into ChatGPT by saying, hey, use the inspiration of plants using roots to recharge themselves when watered. And then we say who we want to create value for. And we also tell it to frame the answer in a certain way. So we really wire that into the response to make sure it's fit for purpose. And having said that, I said many things, and if you had to take away 3 elements today to do this AI alchemy, or alchemy, as Yasha also called it, is to use targeted prompts. So, like I said, what you put in, the quality of what you put in influences the quality of what comes out. And with targeted prompts, there's no one size fits all. It's all about experimenting with AI. No prompt engineering, but like just intuitively playing with it and finding what works and finding out what targeted prompts work. Also treating AI output as preliminary knowledge, so the raw materials for innovation rather than the final product. And casting a critical human eye. So always use unique creativity and expertise. The word bot shit, so robot shit, for if that word sounds confusing, exists for a reason. So let's be aware of that. And I really hope with that we can all create gold one day, combining these elements. So thank you.
Okay. Serena, welcome on stage. Serena's is our next speaker. She's the senior business designer at Nokia Digital, where she worked on circular wire and innovation.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. Let me start with a little introduction. So I'm Serena, I work at IKEA. Don't come to me with any complaints about furniture or food or whatever, or the store, because I work at the digital global head office. So that's not the country, not about the stores and furniture, but here in the Houthavens, there's some of my colleagues around. And I really believe that we should combine technology with human-centric design to create a better future. So at IKEA, we do different things with AI. We have traditional AI that we use for efficiency and waste management. So, for example, to make the supply chain better or to optimize the fleet for delivery with our trucks. And we also use generative AI, for example, to enhance the customer experience. So this is one of our solutions, which is IKEA Creatief, which you can use to reimagine your home. So, for example, you can have your own showroom at your home. You can erase furniture and try out new furniture. This is all that I'm going to say about AI and IKEA for now, because we have a lot of NDAs and things happening. But there's a great talk from Parag Parekh, one of the CTO of IKEA over here. So if you want to learn more, scan QR codes and he will explain to you all about it. I'll give you a second. And then you might wonder, what am I doing here? Well, today I'm talking about AI by design. It's an approach that I wrote together with Yanis Varoufakis, who's the director of AI at Prosus. He's one of the big startup investors. And it was also an article in one of the previous editions of the Surf Design magazine, Touchpoint magazine. And let's talk about AI innovation. So before I explain to you what AI innovation is, or what I mean with this, I'm going to walk you through a case study from OLX Group. And OLX Group is this group of online marketplaces that have about 30 marketplaces. I used to work there for 2 years as a consultant from Go Service Design, as a service designer, together with Yanis Varoufakis. And OLX Group has over 320 million users. They have all these different marketplaces. So, for example, they have a car selling platform in Poland. They have like a Marktplaats or eBay, the biggest one in Portugal, in Turkey, in Brazil. So it's quite big, even though we don't really know it here in Amsterdam. And together we were thinking about the benefit of AI in design. And he's coming from his tech background as the engineer and machine learning expert, and I was coming from a design background as service designer. And we really found there's lots to explore when you combine these things. Together we worked on this project for an online marketplace in Poland, as you can see here. It is Automoto. So it's a platform where people are selling their second-hand car. And it's a combination of text and images, and you can see the price data there. And we noticed that people put a lot of effort in selling their car because people really like their car. They want to make the best profit. But sometimes these listings don't really look nice. And as you can see here, there's a lot of text on top of the images, and we call this inorganic text. And it's not really pretty, and it doesn't look clean. So what we did, we realized, let's clean those images up by using machine learning. And we set two data scientists, engineers to work, and it was before the generative AI boom. It took them 3 months, and they put a lot of effort in it to clean these images up. And I have to say, it looked pretty neat. So before you had this red bar with all the text, the inorganic text, and afterwards, automatically the image was cleaned and you just had the image. So we were really happy, we were high-fiving each other, we looked very pleased, until the next day we got a lot of angry calls and we didn't know why. So what happened? By removing this inorganic text, we actually blocked the users instead of helping them. So we realized that a lot of people use these images to express identity, so to really stand out. Some people needed the images to add extra information that they couldn't place in the listing. So for example, there was a dealer who had different shops in the country and he had different phone numbers. But there was no field in the listing where they can add multiple phone numbers. So they were forced to put it on top of the image. And other people couldn't find their dealer anymore because they were always looking at the inorganic text on the image, but we removed it. So not a great example. So what did we do wrong? We didn't solve the right problem. And I guess most of you are service designers here, so I don't need to preach this to you. But there's great beauty in combining AI with design thinking. And that's why we came up with the AI by design approach. So it really combines the creative way of problem solving and innovation of design thinking with AI, where you look at building the right solution with using data and doing that in the best way. So the value of AI by design is threefold. So first of all, the solutions are more human-centered because you really start with the customer problem. So instead of prescribing a certain technology like AI, you start with, why do we need to have technology? Is this the best tool? What is the problem we want to solve? Second of all, it leverages interdisciplinarity. So you really have the people in the same room talking to each other, understanding it before they build something, and that will save a lot of time and effort because you have less miscommunications and there's less handover in your project teams. And thirdly, AI by design solutions are designed for our dynamic world, meaning that a lot of solutions, when you design them, they can be designed in this sandbox environment, like a perfect training ground where everything is very clean, but the reality is very messy. So you need to design something that's always iterative and it has a feedback loop, so you can continuously improve your solution with new data, with new behavior, and you really have to put it out there to make it better. So this is how it works. Probably don't need to explain to you the double diamond. So as you can see, it's 2 diamonds. I'm going to do it anyway, by the way. It's 2 phases. First, you need to solve the right problem before you can solve the problem right. So you go broad. That's why you start with the diamond. You do discovery, customer research, your interviews, you really try to understand the context. Then you define, so you set the problem you want to solve. You go broad again by ideation, you're developing different solutions, and then you deliver. Simplified way of explaining the model. Maybe you're less familiar with the AI approach. So this is CRISP-PM, and it's one of the most used framework by data scientists. And it has 6 steps. So you start with the business understanding. So what is your objective? What do you want to achieve? Then you look at your data. You try to understand the data. What do we have? What's the quality of it? You prepare your data, and then you build a model. And then you evaluate your model. You see if it's good. You need to iterate it, make it better, maybe get more data. And once it's good enough, you deploy your model. However, if you just combine the 2 frameworks, you might see that there are some gaps in here. So if you look at the first gap over there at the start, And this is where people forget to think about the why in a customer problem. So if you have data scientists that start building something without the first two steps of the double diamond, they might forget to take into account the customer perspective and the why, and why are we doing this? So that's the first gap. If you look at the middle gap, this is where the solution gets unrealistic. So if you have designers brainstorming in a room without any knowledge of technology or how feasible or how difficult the technology is or how difficult it is to build something, you get very unrealistic solutions. So in an ideal world, you invite your data scientists or your engineers to your brainstorm to really understand the feasibility of the solution. And at the end, there's a last gap where the feedback loop is missing. So you need to design a solution that's algorithmic friendly, where you already take into account the way how you get the data to get the response from your customers in the real world, and how you always have a way to optimize your solution and getting the feedback loop. And with the feedback loop, it could be like in ChatGPT, where you ask a question and you can do thumbs up or thumbs down. That's already a feedback loop. Or in TikTok, when you swipe and you like the video, that's also a feedback loop. Or Tinder, left, right, everything where you're just giving feedback back to the algorithm. That's what we call a feedback loop. So in short, the typical design thinking approach can be too unrealistic, and a typical AI approach can be too tech-driven and not solve a customer problem. So to solve this, we came up with a new approach, which we call the AI by Design framework. And it has 6 steps. And you can see we borrowed a bit of inspiration from the double diamond. But what's different is that we added the step in the middle, which is the AI by Design decision moment. And we added the delivery and evaluate step at the end. And I'm going to walk you through all the steps of the model with a small case study. So let's start with the first step, discovery. So in this step, you really want to understand your problem and customer needs, like we're used to with your research, with your interviews, or maybe just by using generative AI to get inspiration. In our case, when we're still working on the second-hand marketplace for car selling, we did some explorative research with car buyers and sellers in Poland, and we wanted to understand trust issues on the platform, because trust is the biggest challenge on any online marketplace. So we did our interviews, we talked to all these people, to dealers, to sellers, to buyers, to understand how they felt about trust. And in the defining step, where you select a problem to solve and you define your opportunities, we found out that sellers took a lot of effort to take a good picture of their car. So sometimes they even waited for a week to have better weather, because it was raining and they didn't think it was a good weather for the background of their car picture. And sometimes they even drove to a different neighborhood to give a better context for the car. So it's a very sensitive topic, apparently. Then we come to our third step, the AI by Design decision. And this is where you ask yourself the question, should we and can we solve the problem with AI? And in our case, we found an existing AI tool that is like a digital showroom. So you take a scan of your car, you can erase the background, and you can replace it with something else, whether it be a showroom or a nice Amsterdam Zuid background, whatever you feel like. And we asked one of our engineers, and they said they can build this in a matter of days. So we were really happy with this. And then we came to the fourth step, developing, where you explore different solutions and you do your explanatory data analysis. But before we started building our tool, we wanted to do a test. So we created a prototype, the first version of our solution, and we did a couple of interviews with the car buyers and sellers to understand if this was something they liked. And step 5, we de-risked our assumptions and you evaluate the AI model to extend the coverage. And in our case, it had a very unexpected outcome because people didn't really like our tool. The car buyers, they felt it was not authentic because they couldn't understand what the identity of the seller was, or if it was fake, or if they were hiding something. So the car buyers didn't like it. The car sellers, they felt like they couldn't express their identity anymore. And the car dealers were a bit upset because they had like the sole rights of my showrooms, and now anyone could pretend to be a dealer. So they also felt a bit offended and hurt. So we went back to the drawing table and to come up with a different solution, solving the same customer needs. And once that was the right one, so in our case, we created a simple tool that corrects the brightness and contrast and removes blurriness. And once this was tested and validated, we launched it, we deployed it, we got feedback from users, and we kept on iterating on this solution. So it's a simple way of explaining the AI by design framework with all the 6 steps in there. And we launched this framework, and then suddenly the AI boom happened. So we were wondering, how does this change with generative AI? And before we can answer this question, we first need to understand what's the difference between traditional AI and generative AI. So if you look at traditional AI, it goes a bit like this. This is supposed to be an arrow. I don't know what happened. You start with input, so for example, a picture or a description, and you get an output that's a prediction. So it's learning the relationship between the input and the output. But with generative AI, it's actually the other way around. So you start with a prompt or with text, and then you get an output based on the prompt, like this image. Meaning that for us, it's really important to look into the evaluation. So do you get what you expected? Is your prompt right? And is the outcome what you expected it to be? And therefore, ChatGPT is working better than some other generative AI tools because they do a really good job in implementing this feedback loop and getting continuous improvements on how to make it better, to evaluate, is this hallucinating, is it predicting something unexpected? Because you always need to make sure that you improve the data model. Second of all, with generative AI, the question in the middle became even more important. So it's not just a matter of should we use AI or not, but also what kind of AI do we want to use right now. So you have basically 3 options. You can use no AI, traditional logic. So this could be a spreadsheet or an Excel sheet. Traditional AI, so you have your labels, it's based on supervised learning. This one is more safe because you use your own data set usually. Or you can have your generative AI, which is a large language model, which is unsupervised or zero-shot learning. And it really depends on the risks of your solution or your data or which one you want to use. And lastly, the question was, how can we leverage generative AI to do innovation? So I'm working in innovation, and everyone was asking, is our job going to be replaced by AI? So as a little gimmick, we did this test. We asked an AI agent, can you create a plan that I can use to do second-hand marketplace innovation? So replacing my job that I had at OLX. And we got some answers. And pretty soon, it looked promising, but we got a bit upset. We lost trust. And I have to say that our prompts were not that good either. But anyway, the outcome was very generic. We didn't know where we got the answers from. And we didn't know if we could trust the data or if it was hallucinating. So if you really zoom out and you look back on the 6 steps of AI by design innovation, you can basically say this. And I think you also, I heard you say the same thing, so I'm happy. And what's happening with these arrows? But if you use AI for innovation and you use this model, it can really kickstart your process by starting you exploring, like you said, with the personas or really going broad. But you still need to have a human in the loop to understand if this is right, or to write the prompts, or to really focus the answer that you're looking for. If you look at Define, it can really help you making sense of the data. So there are all these amazing tools that you can use to cluster post-its or to analyze transcripts or interviews, or you can make an automatic customer journey right now. But you still need to have the human as like, Kevin Kelly called it, AI is like having a bad intern. So it can do stuff for you, but you still need to be there to guide him or her, to give them some nudges in the right direction. It can help you with ideation. It can even build prototypes for us. But in the end, you always need to have a human in the loop to really make sure, is it still ethical? Do we get what we intended to get out of it? And does it meet our success criteria in the end? So basically, the challenges of generative AI for innovation are that it really allows us for easier access to knowledge, but a solution is not always the right solution, and we still need humans in the loop for quality control, evaluation, and trust. So before I wrap up, 3 things that you can remember about this talk. AI by design is a combination of design thinking with AI, and it will lead to solutions that work, solve real customer problems, and have a positive business impact. And first of all, always start with your customer needs before you work on any solution, because otherwise you might end up with something that nobody wants to use. Second of all, make a conscious AI by decision. Should you and can you use AI? Because not every project needs to have AI in there. And you need to do an assessment of the cost, difficulties, and ethical sides before committing. And you need to be aware of hallucinating, so if the data is actually, if the predictions are actually correct. And thirdly, Gen AI is a tool. And I love this way of saying, if you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So you really need to be wary of using the right use case for AI and to solve the right problem. So if you want to know more, you can download the paper by scanning the QR codes, or you can look up the article in the previous magazine. And please feel free to reach out after the talk.
Okay, thank you, Serena. Before we get to the next speaker, I'd like to do a little bit of a show of hands from you, just to get a sense from the audience. 3 questions. First, who uses AI in their day-to-day life? Not their professional work, not but their day-to-day life. Privately. Okay, who's using AI for their professional work? Almost everyone. And who here identifies as a service designer?
Yes.
Good. Okay. No, that's. I mean, we don't check at the door and say that you have to be. Who here is? Who's not a service designer? Okay. So the next part of the talk, actually, or the next talk from Luke, he's gonna first introduce his talk, but he actually has some questions in it, and those questions are going to be the trigger for discussion first amongst the previous speakers, but I also want to make sure that those get flown to you. So any questions you've had, first you're going to have some questions from Luke, and then we can open it up at the end for any questions from the speakers previously. So there's your slide. Thanks again, Trina. So Luke is going to give his talk now. He's a recent graduate in service design and AI enthusiast. I've seen him give this talk before, actually right in the space. He was really nice to see the discussion it triggered, so that's why I'm only got into this event. And he's going to share insight issues of generative AI and design, strategic design, service design.
Thanks, Lucy. Wrong way. Let me see.
It's already inside.
Oh no! How? Don't look.
Maybe you kick the rat.
This looks more like it. Oh, awesome! That's my name. Yeah, great that everyone's here. As Jesse already said, my name is Luc. I graduated end of May this year from strategic product design at TU Delft. And during my graduation, my graduation was focused on how will generative AI make an impact on strategic design, service design, and the overall design process. And to give you a little bit of more insight on what led to this is when I started graduating, it was the boom of ChatGPT and all the other generative AI models on the market. And you've got all these mainstream media suddenly covering it, like this one article from Wall Street Journal comparing MBA students to AI, who comes up with the more innovative ideas. The titles that spark people to think of, is AI going to replace me? AI will have a big impact on work, and Harvard and BCG had a big study on how AI can help or will not help in the workplace. And this also gave me the thoughts of how will AI actually impact my future work? How will it impact service designers? So what I did is I will first show you the results. I came up with a guidebook for designers, which is basically everything I found during my studies, or well, during the graduation of my studies on generative AI, including prompt principles, ways to use AI, tactics to use AI, strategies to use AI, and use cases. I bundled them in a sort of guidebook to prepare designers for generative AI. And I also made a comprehensive poster on how generative AI in strategic design, in this case, will impact strategic design. But that's not what we'll be talking about right now, because I first want to take you a bit into what I actually did during this research. So this was the question I had at the beginning of my research. It is, what is the impact of the usage of generative AI on the design process? So the previous talk was also a bit on how can we design solutions with generative AI incorporated in the solutions. My focus was more on how is using generative AI during the process, how is it going to change stuff. And in this question is actually two different parts. First, the generative AI part. So what is generative AI? How does it work? What can it do? On the other hand, the design process. I also had to understand what is the design process exactly, and what is really important for the design process, and what makes it a design process. So to do so, I actually just started testing the uses of generative AI. I first designed workshops. I used several common ways to conduct design research or to do service design for this. Then I conducted workshops with students, service design students or strategic design students. And afterwards, I had reflection sessions with those students, and we tried to reflect on common statements and questions to make them think about how did I actually feel using generative AI and how happy am I with this feeling I got from it. So to go into the designing of the workshops a bit, I looked at traditional methods that are currently being used or are being used a lot during service design. Second, I looked at papers and studies on the proven effectiveness of AI. So there has been already been done a lot of stuff regarding using AI in several different pieces of the design process. So maybe in ideation, there's been a specific study on ideation or creativity. So I took all these parts together. Then third, I actually bundled what I found and what we usually do as designers and tried to come up with some AI-enabled methods. For example, really simple one. Normally you would do Scamper yourself. Now we do Scamper in a AI-enabled way. And in the end, I came up with workshops that I wanted to test with people using these AI-enabled methods. And from this, I got some really interesting results. But before I want to give you those results, I first want to just do these reflection statements with the audience and the speakers. So we'll give 3 statements in total, or 3 questions. I just love to hear your opinion on what you think about this question. And then afterwards, after each statement or question, I will share what I found during the study or during the graduation. So if the speakers, I guess they're just going to sit or?
Yeah, let's come up, bring you up if you've been a speaker. And that way you're near the microphone if you have a really brilliant answer.
Really brilliant.
Yeah, let's say all 4 of you.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, this is good. Yeah. Okay. You'll just have to talk a little bit loud. So thank you. Let's go with the first question, and that is, can AI enhance creativity during the creative process? Thomas, okay, maybe give your opinion on this question.
I think so. So actually last week, I in a client workshop, we do a lot of brainstorming workshops with our clients, and I asked ChatGPT to come up with the first 20 ideas. So we took those out of the way and then asked our client to come up with new ideas. So in terms of like getting the most obvious things out of the way, I think it works. Yeah.
So in
I
this
think in the diverging
So in,
ideas.
in this case, it actually came up with pretty standard ideas, and it's like a purse, clearing the mind for the user maybe a bit.
Yeah, I think as you said, like the output is sometimes a bit expected. So getting that out of the way can, I think, trigger more deeper thinking.
But does AI make the designer more creative in this sense?
I think we can make the AI creative with our prompts, because that's what we tried by giving it analogies that we thought of ourselves, and therefore it became more creative in how it did the responses. So I think even the answers and the host, all of it.
So it's
by reversing the question.
It's a two-way relationship. So the designer has to be more creative to make the AI more creative, and then the AI can make the designer more creative. Is that what I understand correctly?
Yeah.
Yeah. On the other way of the screen?
AI also helps you to have a broader view, because when you write your prompt, you always be biased, or you have your limited scope. And then sometimes AI can surprise you, because something like Libra, it makes people like you have like a more variety of answers. But still, I don't know if you're not creative yourself, if the outcome, it will probably be more creative, but you need some stuff.
Makes sense. Someone from the audience that wants to react on something? Maybe someone completely disagrees.
I agree with that idea that it is creative, it can help you if you are good with the prompts. Right? So what you said actually, you won't be creative on its own. You have to do something to lead it to be creative, at least until now.
Yeah. So it's a tool. Does anyone believe AI can replace the designer's creativity? See some heads going from left to right. Yeah.
No, I don't think so. Not yet, at least.
Okay. What's the main thing that doesn't make it able to?
Well, what Serena said about the data set. So I don't think AI can be nurtured with all the data necessary to create a rich solution or create a visible solution. Plus, and also how you push it. So how do you avoid to stop on a superficial level but really tight, and that's something that actually demanding to do in my career. From that iteration to go more in detail and adapt the context, the consider different perspectives as well. So I think what I think is that at the moment the tendencies with AI to keep on the surface. You have to be very good to do it, to use it to build with that.
Yeah. Anyone else want to react?
Depends on the kind of creativity also. So I might be just talking about a solution, but in visualization, you're definitely better and more creative than I am. So actually, create visuals in the presentations. You couldn't have done it yourself, I guess. So there's creativity which borrows from all the other data sources, but still better than I am. I think in future it will be quite powerful.
Yeah.
And also a lot of obvious ideas that's come up in workshop with clients, and it gets them out of the way. And like you said, I like it first, maybe even more so. And then I think then it's time afterwards to go in as designers. Then, well, like it with some like drink whiskey and smoke cigars or something, and then you could also think about it and think it through and it's stuck. Then you have to not only focus on this.
Yeah, a deeper layer maybe.
Deeper layer. Think it through a bit more and take more time.
Yeah.
Combination in this area.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say it would replace us or as designers fully, but it would definitely change our job, what we do.
That's
Almost.
no spoilers.
95%.
We're gonna have a second question. I saw another hand next to you.
Yeah, I think regarding the imagery, I think there are illustrators or designers who can do that. I think the differentiation has been good. So AI has a different level of speed. I also think you started to love it, but it depends on the type of creativity. And AI can bring, depending on obviously how it was fed, but innovative connections we may not have because maybe they bring in Indian or indigenous or African culture elements into something which we wouldn't have thought of. So what you said, Serena, so nicely, is that you have a certain scope in your mind, and where the innovation could happen with AI is poking holes in that and bringing data in you just don't have at your fingertips and at your disposal. So there, innovation can happen. What I personally love to do is, and I appreciated your example very much with the client and like get it out of the way, but it's a brilliant brainstorming partner. I've spent those nights and just building in my mind. I am a thinking out loud person, and for that it's really brilliant. The creativity is still with me, like coming up with whatever I come up with. But so yeah, I think it depends a bit. The design answer, I think.
Interesting what you're saying about the brainstorming partner as well. Before we want to go on to the conclusion, can someone think of ways that it would actually decrease creativity? I'm looking for the opposite word of enhance, but like be a hindrance for creativity in the process.
AI that's kind of look the same. A lot of images, just like that's an AI image. Even in text, people recognize that they're in text. So you actually have to be more creative to make it happen like the animation.
My most used AI tool is GPT-0. That tells you whether a piece of text was written by a human or an AI. And I have a good sense for it right now, and usually it's 90% written by AI. It's said to be recognized, really direct matching.
Yeah.
So their creative writing is impeded if you start using AI.
So using it in the wrong way can actually make people lazy.
Yeah.
Exactly, they were lazy, and that's what was things that happening. So the first funny idea is not that great. If you are lazy, you will take on then. I think as a designer, as a good designer, actually, we're good at curating what is good and is not the acted at and not just works to get what we every take from that.
I see a hand in the back.
For me, I don't think it. I think I found it still be fruitful. But every time I'm feeling like I'm talking to a very specific type of person, or the answers I get are very dark with community, but like being lazy, like sending stuff. For example, we had like community analysis, and the interview with me built a word community for skills. And then the outcome of the summary was like about the LGBTQ community, like that's not what we're talking about. Read the script and give me tips and answers. But it was it has these words, but it doesn't interpret them in the way it's meant by the sense. I think that's where it kind of limits the output.
Yeah.
And if your question was, does AI risk the involvement of designers in the process or risk creation? If we buy into the arguments that designers, people need to be involved, I do see a risk because the people who could wrongly employ us as designers, whether it's an internal person asking the design team to do something or hiring a design agency, they might well say, let's just do the creativity bit with AI. Then, selfishly or not, we can look at ourselves and think we're out of a job. So that there I really do see a risk. Yes, it can potentially do it, but if we think we need to be involved, we risk getting cut out of the process. And that actually is then.
That took much different than always has been. I mean, before it wasn't WordPress, and now all the clients that I had 20 years ago now make their own website. I think the process that always needed. That's cool.
I think these remarks are very valid, and I have a hunch in question 2 we will come back to them. But first we come to the conclusion of question 1. What I'm hearing, indeed, I found that AI can really stimulate creativity. You can use it as an inspiration source. It can spark these creative new thoughts. Or you're maybe stuck as a designer on a certain topic or a certain direction. It's always good to just take a step back. And if you can't do it yourself, make AI take a step back for you. Just ask it what you can't come up with at that moment yourself. When you think you're stuck in a certain direction, ask it, hey, I'm stuck in a certain direction. Maybe just give me 4 new directions that can get my mind free again and I can start thinking of new stuff. But an interesting point also for stimulating creativity is that it only works when you use it in the right way. And I actually found during the study that a lot of ways are actually the wrong way. So first of all, you need to have the right skills for prompting. Already I gave like a hint. There are specific ways to use it that gives you really good insights. But when you don't, you can get really, really frustrated with getting the same shitty results that nobody's happy with. On the other hand, when you use it one-on-one, it's a great brainstorming partner, as we heard. Using it with others actually makes it less of a brainstorming partner. When you're sitting with the 4 of you in a room, you're trying to brainstorm new ideas, and this extra factor is in the room. It's a computer, and it's also coming up with ideas, and you're all staring at the screen, waiting for all the letters to appear on the screen. It actually gets you out of this creative flow. So using at the right moment is also really important. Any questions or remark on this final conclusion? I see one hand.
So the last about your meeting, so you couldn't use AI as an extra participant in a time.
So that's a fun
and the aspect AI output actually fast all the other.
So it's a difficult thing to say of AI. I believe that AI is bad at something. I just believe that when it's used, like I used it at that moment, it works really bad. Updates can change it. Other ways of using it can change it. But using it at that way can make it difficult.
If you're looking here as a human, socially speaking,
we see advancements being made in the voice modes. So who knows? Yeah.
Also, private non-interpretation syndrome. So AI idea what you could proceed with, and that would go well.
Good. Yeah. So to make a side note, there is ownership was a big deal of my research as well, but it isn't included in this presentation. So extra insight. People did actually feel that they had ownership over the ideas they come up with, but only if they were directly involved in the prompting and the generating of the outcomes themselves. When we were using this in a group setting, they were with 4 of them, and one person was very dominant and one person was very laid back. Normally, you still have this group dynamics. The dominant person maybe will speak the most, the laid back one will be a bit on the background. But when you're using AI, the dominant person will take charge of the computer. And there's this relationship between AI and the dominant person, and the other person just gets even more to the back. And this person also said, like, yeah, in the end, I was at the workshop, but I have no feeling that I helped with this because I had no power to creating prompts, and therefore ownership was really low. So that's a good thing to keep in mind. Now we're going to go on to the next question. What should be the main role of AI during service design process, and where should it not be used? So we already spoke a bit on, is it going to replace a designer, doom scenario? Let's first look at what will be the main role of AI during the service design process. Maybe we can start at the other end of the screen now.
Oh, I love the skill scenario. Does he accept that? But I was thinking, oh, maybe not. The student also said that it's needs to end. And I remember without AI, I was transcribing by hand, listening to the recording of interviews, transcribing by hand, writing everything on sticky notes, clustering every sticky note. And it took me days. And now you just have AI, and it's just, you can get more time for the good parts. So I think it's actually pretty nice. If AI can help us do the things we like to do better, and taking away our tedious note-taking, summarizing, copying text stuff, then I'm really happy. Yeah.
Good remark. One of the other speakers.
I was thinking in terms of the double diamond. I guess wherever you need to diverge and open your mind to the world can be helpful. But at this point, I'd be just trying it everywhere throughout the design process. But just be really mindful of the decision.
Yeah.
A sparring partner, I think, even isolated it, work with someone inspiring, and you get more to diverge with it, and then you come back and decide what to do this out with your team.
So already see, I hear automating some boring repetitive tasks maybe. They say you can use it anywhere as long as you use it consciously. And I hear here a sparring partner, so we already have like 3 pretty different approaches. Anyone from the audience?
That should not be the sit with social design. That should be.
Okay, yeah. Let's start with the things AI can do.
The other.
Then I'll keep you in mind.
No pressure.
Jesse?
So I think when we talk about where it should be used and where not, we should also be careful what is busy work that we do want to get out of our hands and what is difficult work that still adds value. So I know what you mean, there's a lot of post-processing and design research, but actually I found that doing those summaries and stuff forces stuff into my head, as painful as it is, that I remember through the project. And it's a little like the possibility of using synthetic users for research. I really enjoy getting clients and forcing them to sit literally behind their half glass mirror and watch user research, because you can show them bullet point summaries of research all you want, and that curved real users say something that sticks in their head. So I think we need to be careful and say, yes, there's a certain amount of work that can help remove us from, but I wouldn't want to go so far as get that kind of feeling in our hands of doing some stuff that, yes, it takes time, but it forces us to remember things going within it.
Yeah, I think for example, was very good in that topic. If you don't do that a little bit at least, you run the risk that suddenly it's giving you output and you didn't even notice that there was something that wasn't said.
Yeah, so one of my questions, how do you know that it's good? Running a lot of interviews now, about 50, and I don't like to do the manual practices and so on, and looking forward to the end. How do you know that any summarization tool makes the right decision? I've seen a lot of prepping with some things that were said, conclusions that are doubtful.
I think your role is to be the curator, right? You were there during the interview, you use the tooling to do the analysis, and then I think you have an understanding based on the interviews what result focus. I think there comes the human again, and you have done that in
I wanted there were 5 researchers doing 10 interviews. Who's the curator then? All 5?
Yeah, so I'm wondering, maybe later during the drink, but how do you decide whether it's good or not? What are the criteria when it's a good tool? Do you use ChatGPT, something else?
Fair points.
No questions, no answers needed.
I had ideas running through my head, but I said we can talk later.
Like the one thing is, it's also everybody has different learning styles. So some people read it once, hear it once, it sticks. Other people need the consensus. Like there's maybe also differentiation factor in how to use it. What you're saying is, you bring also a bias into it, right? So AI brings a bias when there is some bias. You bring the bias. So how could that be solved? That there may be a few biases in the room to find then the most, usual way to look at the result of so that's maybe often it just partly.
I know your fellow researchers.
But yeah, they are adding right now. AI is often adding things and summarizing things which are just not there. What? Yeah.
Yes.
Like your pizza, AI, but you can also make it in structured and so different than you talk later. So I need email assistant and mobile app name actually. And this is that from a delivery group and people have randomized this kind of information and won't have any bias in reflecting participant or and trying to schedule things and make a lot of those or function and posting to the ground. More of the like logistic element, but it's still part of the funding you're doing.
I think we heard a lot of different roles for both AI and maybe hidden for the human. Let's go to the conclusions. So what I found is AI has a great potential to be a catalyst. So you can use it to speed things up. You already were talking about how it can help you when you're trying to transcribe stuff. Maybe it just transcribes it and you have to read it yourself, or maybe you can let it read, but only half of it, and you can compare it. So there's also like quite a line between to what extent can you use AI and to what extent will you still need to do stuff yourself. But what I find is that as a catalyst, speeding things up, it can definitely work. But as an information source, it's becoming a bit dangerous. First of all, it makes hallucinations. It comes up with stuff that just simply isn't true. Luckily, new generative AI models are getting better and better in this, also having the capabilities to give sources with the statements they make. But still, even with sources, what is truth? What sources on the internet are entirely true right now? It's a danger zone on the internet. On the other hand, generative AI is based on data, and when the data is biased, the generative AI becomes biased. To give you a concerning example, there was this study looking at how generative AI would fill in certain surveys, and when they did it, it was all like the average American person would fill in a survey. Now it was asked, fill this survey in as a Russian person. The AI filled in the survey. Results came out that might match a Russian, but it matched the typical American stereotype of a Russian. So if I would ask AI, hey, design this solution, but think like you're a Russian, you're going to get answers that are only confirming maybe the bias you're having, in this case as an American or any other person having a stereotype of a Russian. It's only confirming that bias. And when you think that's right, you have to be the person looking at it and thinking, okay, maybe I should take a step back and get an alternative information source. So what can you actually do as a designer in this case? First, you have a facilitating role. You are the one using generative AI, not only with yourself, but also with stakeholders, potential clients, maybe the people in your team. And you are the one that have to guide people to the process and using it the correct way. So make sure people use it with giving the right prompts, stop using it at the right moments, use it as inspiration and not as information sources. On the other end, we were talking about what is the role of the designer, for example, in interviews and with bias. I see the designer becoming more and more of an ethical gatekeeper. So understanding the information that is given by AI or the conclusions given by AI or what other people are doing with AI, taking a step back and thinking, is this ethical to do right now? And is this giving me inclusive solutions or solutions that actually matter for the human? Or is this just based on results generated by AI and nobody really knows whether it's true or not or works or not until it's actually deployed in the field? So this ethical gatekeeper step is really, or role is a really important one. Now, to go on to the last statement, how can we actually prepare service designers for a future where generative AI is being used both in designing and delivering services? Long statement, but yeah.
Oh, you just answered with your previous conclusion.
Yeah. Yeah, partly. But how can we actually do that? Maybe also if someone in the audience wants to say it immediately. We already are talking about the ethical part. Yeah. So how can we make designers these ethical gatekeepers?
training, education, exposure to where it goes wrong, exposure to the dangers of the worst cases in the States from the American airline at thinking I'm the exact those where it was employed and caused huge problems and had to pull law down. There was just one that sticks out there. Showing where it goes wrong can be a potential way to remind people of the risk and make them think about it.
Yeah, making mistakes and learning from them.
I very much agree with that point, or never way. The other way, I think, let's need to think about this, but it's this committing out of the future pretty, unfortunately, you could also imagine that AI is not only able to discover a lot of content and ideate and already built something and test it, and then it's just doing the AI and the real. I think it would help me imagine how this would look like, because of our perspective in this, and I think in this case it is clear that we have focus much more on the ethical aspect of the soul, our responsibility changes. So it's not so much about these greatly service questions anymore. It's probably about steering the process. But we have like that, yeah.
We forget to less respectful on things the endpoint of them the question then that on them for the answer with the is that we go with the first answer or the answer as is and not we think about it and determine it. From there we are not innovating or not being ethical and the seeing all the
I think we have to also know, like Sharon said, more about the technical aspects of applying AI, technical frameworks, knowledge, how that we can discuss with developers or whoever is in the deal of that, what's possible, what not, and what can you do to prevent bias in models in themselves, for instance.
Yeah.
I think much more the type of technical stuff than we used to.
I think it's also worth going one step broader and just trying to develop a very intuitive understanding of the technology, because large language models, they have this very extensive neural network that they work on top of. So it's not like a car engine that you understand how it works and then you find the best answer. Sam Altman described the LLM as the output that it gives. They're hard to understand because he said they come by divine benevolence. So I think just playing with it, because it is a journey of personal transformation and becoming an ethical gatekeeper. That's not a checkbox. It's something that we need to become. So I think it's quite a deep change that will happen in us as a species, as service designers, but also broadly, because these things they don't come naturally to you. You need to do them actively and remind yourself to do them. And that comes out of practice.
And you got really good models to do the checking, everybody. It's both mindset and also the checklist. You know, if it's okay, on time, we won't have this. So when will be to have those models like the other time? Now they're all about we got a trustful AI framework that you can use in workshops and new clients and continue to do conversations on the topic. A bit like this. What comments go here?
A friend of his of mine worked on contestable AI. Was at the Delft University.
What was his name?
Carson.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
He worked on contestable AI. So knowing that there are ways for end users to say, "Hey, I don't like the result of the AI. I want to say that it's wrong," and build that into whatever we're designing. We have a process organization model for design. Finding places where users can say, "Hey, this is wrong." It's something that we did educated by.
Yeah, I fully agree.
Because we need to learn about how to co-design with our fellow designers and clients with AI. But that's a whole different dynamic.
Exactly, yeah. Because we're also the ones guiding the process, and they probably expect from service designers that they know how to use this stuff, technologies.
have a just short question. What I always use and say is design. Not design, if there is something like new AI, just the owner of design or just trying mark like I created by building AI or some that it is one. And then like it, then it's not more intellectual property or not.
Good question. AI is a tool, and it's an interesting tool because it's giving you outputs that are trained on inputs of others. If we would compare it to Illustrator, I personally can't draw, but I can use the easy line of Illustrator to make pretty okay drawings. When I show you my drawing or my art piece, I won't say to you, hey, this is my art piece. It's powered by Adobe because I'm using their cool software called Illustrator, and that enables me to come up with this awesome visual. Would you feel obliged to do so when you're giving someone something you made with OpenAI, like, hey, I made this with ChatGPT? It's like a border, and maybe because it's new, we just don't really know the answer yet. But I think it all depends on, one, how you look at it, and two, how you value, what you know of the value you put into it, or the effort you put into it.
There was an interesting dialogue at the Washington People Company that's now, and there was a lawyer there who was specialized. I don't recall the name right now, but maybe we put one on the website. There was a lawyer who specifically specialized in art because there is copyright. So they can especially use any so basically the person can like what's the called when the conference you put it in the wall you did that. Yeah, that was definitely not an expert, but he's very native point of it can be pretty good. We did happen.
Wasn't it Figma who recently said we'll turn off AI features, AI generative AI features because if you said draw me a weather app, you basically do the Apple weather app.
You can imagine. Yeah, there are plenty of lawsuits going on and plenty of people making problems of the training data as well. So this is definitely a topic we will hear more about. But at this moment, I don't think there's a direct conclusion to it. That's the answer. So,
I have one more point.
Last point.
The impact on sustainability. So, because AI, using AI is also, I think, when we're thinking of preparing service designers and anyone else, is the awareness of the more you use it, the more trees you kill at the end of the day, right? So you have to be aware of the environmental impact you have by using ChatGPT or other tools, and that should be always also a question what you said it should be, just because it should be, and that should be definitely a constituent point for any designer to bring that up. Like, okay, do we know what it actually is?
Yeah, perfect. We go to the last conclusion, and as we already were talking about being an ethical gatekeeper and knowing what AI is, we are also looking at the expanded skill set. So using AI at first is pretty easy. Everyone can type a prompt and get a response because it's made to give you easy responses from limited information. But as the others are also already saying, using it in an easy way can also give you really, really standard responses. So as a designer, next to being the ethical gatekeepers, we should also be the experts in guiding people to use AI correctly, both in an ethical way and an effective way. So we have to understand how to use AI, and therefore that way we can actually master it and help others use it to create meaning or to create efficient outcomes. These are the conclusions. If there are any other questions, I know we had some questions for Tommaso at the beginning. Are they still relevant? Or so much information after Tommaso, so I guess not. Then I will give the word to Jesse.
Okay, thank you very much. I know I'm now the only person standing between you and drinks in the sunshine. So first, you've heard from one speaker, one author of this issue of platform onto the design. If your appetite has been wet and you want to read more about what the service design community think about AI, please consider getting a copy of this touch point. You can scan it, either via code, either buy it as a PDF, we have it sent to you, or you can buy it here online, in person. Kumsal has some good at the table, and the QR code you do. So if you want to get money, pretty through. Last slide, still on the theme. You might also be interested in now a little more generally. We're busy planning. In fact, Eduardo in the back is the mind behind it. The next event for the SDN Meetup chapter in the KSDN public sector. Be quick on Meetup. This event has like the 70-person waiting list. I mean, you guys are lucky to get it, but join quickly if you like. The not. The next issue of Touchpoint is on in-house service design, and you're kind of accepting abstracts at the moment. If you have experience, either from an agency side working long-term in-house or working in-house, and want to write about this and have it yourself published in Touchpoint, go to the SDN website, enter your abstract. I'm actually leading an 8-week course that's for experienced service designers starting the end of September. That leads to accreditation from the Service Design Network. I've invited a great bunch of trainers, and we're covering 8 different topics over those 8 weeks. If you're interested in that, you can find information on the SDN Academy site, and if you approach me tonight, I can maybe give you a discount. And lastly, the SDN conference is taking place, I think it's our 18th conference in Helsinki in October. And tickets are on floor, and then I would love to join us. The people are as nice as you all are, but there's hundreds more. So it's a big event. That's it. Thank you, everyone, for participating. You've got great drinks, and with the idea that we take drinks.
Yeah.